They decided Zack's way of doing things is going to be how we do everything now. Huh? Like, I've never understood what Warner Brothers and DC Entertainment were thinking between 2013 and 2015. I just don't know. Because they looked at all of the things that people were mad about from Man of Steel and said, hey, Zack, let's lean into that. And let's make Batman hate Superman for all the reasons that those critics hated Man of Steel. And this will show that we hear them. And Superman will ultimately redeem himself. And it'll be great for all of us. I don't know what they were thinking, but it was stupid. Okay? It was ridiculous. And listen, I'm not the only one who thought so, because they got buyer's remorse before the movie even came out. They made this decision and they let Zack Snyder not only set the tone for BVS, right? Because he was heavily involved with crafting that story with Chris Terrio after David Goyer was initially there to map out the beats of it. But he also was the guy deciding what everyone looked like. He was the one casting all the core members of the Justice League. He was the one establishing the initial mythical building blocks for each one of these characters. So any director who came on to do a Cyborg movie or a Flash movie or a Wonder Woman movie was going to have to build upon Zack Snyder's ideas, not create their own, but build upon his ideas. So he had this opportunity to essentially, he set the tone for BVS. He had created the outlines for Justice League 1, 2. He had created the outline for what Wonder Woman would be, for how Suicide Squad would be presented, because it had to fill in the gaps between Superman dying and us getting to the events of Justice League. And it had to have some kind of an impact on James Wan's Aquaman movie. So basically everything Zack Snyder was working on from 2013 through 2015 was going to have seismic impacts on the rest of the DC universe as we knew it, because they put all their eggs in the Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice basket. They needed this movie to be so good that people were going to be excited for everything that was going to be coming afterward. That's what, and Zack Snyder it was his vision that had to introduce the world to something that was hopefully going to be massively successful. Meanwhile, it was his creative flourishes, like deciding to kill Zod and to do all of that world destroying stuff at the end of Man of Steel. It was his creative instincts that hurt Man of Steel, but it was his creative instincts that they handed all of DC to. And again, don't hate the player, hate the game. I'm not mad at Zack Snyder. Zack, he has a vision. He has a way that he likes to tell these stories. And hey, spoiler alert, I thought Zack Snyder's Justice League was phenomenal. It's one of the greatest things I've ever seen of DC on film. So I'm not saying any of this as some sort of Zack Snyder either fan or hater. I'm just telling you from an executive level. I don't know how you looked at the response to Man of Steel and thought the answer to that is to give that director more control. And on the contrary, let's give him control over more than just one character now. It just doesn't make sense. And they caught it themselves, but too late. They caught it with the movie about to come out. They saw the rough cuts of the movie. They saw the early screenings of the movie, and they realized, what did we do? This vision isn't going to work. So now we have to cut a half hour out of Batman versus Superman. Now we need to go to David Ayer and reshoot a bunch of his movie and get outside editors to make 6 different cuts and test them all and try to find one that'll work. And we're going to let Patty Jenkins kind of forget some of the stuff that was established in BVS so that Wonder Woman can separate itself and really be successful. And we're like, they made so many sweeping changes that even the Justice League movie that was about to enter production, that they had already approved, they started rewriting it before BVS even came into theaters. They lost faith in Zack Snyder before the first film in his plan even came out. They were inept and reactionary and out of their minds, because what do? When you see those first screenings of BVS and you realize, uh-oh, we've got a problem here. We're hinging an entire universe on this movie, and this movie's problematic. What do? If you're smart, it hurts, but you delay the movie. And you delay everything. You delay everything that's relying on this movie. And you go, hang on, we cannot release this because if this is the first real introduction the world has to this wider universe of DC characters, we're doomed. We've got to fix this. And clearly they thought they had to fix it, right? You don't chop a half hour hastily off of a movie right before it comes out because you think the movie's great. You don't start rewriting Justice League because you think Justice League is in awesome shape. You don't hijack David Ayer's Suicide Squad because you think this is all going splendidly. You do all this because you're panicking. And if you're panicking, the best bet is not to rush all these things out with half-baked CG and poorly rewritten scenes and missing big swaths of subplot that would make the big final moments land better. You don't do that. You delay the movies, you re-edit them, you reshoot some things, you get it to a place where you're comfortable with it, and then you announce a release date, and then we proceed from there. Henry's Superman was paying the ultimate cost at this point, because rather than having his Man of Steel 2, his sequel got hijacked and turned into this big, troublesome issue. And the studio, rather than try to solve the problem, decided to just double down on all of their insane decisions instead.